Hey everybody, Seth V here for the KnifeCenter, and it's time to take a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's get into it. Kicking things off with a new version of the Mini Evo from SharpByDesign. So I'm glad that I get a chance to talk about these on camera because although, titanium frame lock flippers have somewhat become the norm these days, there's a lot about these knives that are extra special. These feature purple haze fat carbon inlays, very cool, very colorful. You really have to see them in motion, in person to really appreciate how the light kind of dances around off these. They almost seem to ripple. Very cool material, and it's a perfect fit for kind of a high-tech knife like this. The other thing that makes these knives particularly, advanced, I would say, is the detent. Most frame lock flippers use a ball bearing here in the lock bar to provide the detent force, which is what, makes it able to flip open. Whereas these use a specially shaped, almost like sculpted ramp to provide the detent. And what it gets is a perfectly smooth close. So the detent itself is almost lifting the lock bar up onto the tang of the blade. And then instead of a little hard, like round ball that's just scraping against the tang of the blade, it's this nice flat pad of hardened steel. So the action on these is both extremely crisp, really fast, and unbelievably smooth. It really is something special. You can tell as soon as you use one that it just feels different, and that's because it is a little different. The detent system is something proprietary to Brian Nadeau, aka SharpByDesign, and it's part of what makes this knife so special. So as far as the nuts and bolts here, we've got a 3.4-inch blade made from M390 steel, nice hand-applied horizontal satin finish, titanium frame, sculpted titanium pocket clip, and the price on these is $425. So in addition to this drop point, also have a harpoon tanto version. This one's pretty sweet. Also has the hand-applied satin finish with a bit of a contrast brushing there at the tanto tip. The fat carbon featured on this version is nebula. We got some blue, some red, some white, all sort of exploding in there. Very, very cool. And that special detent for spectacular, practically fail-safe action. Yeah. Whew. Super sweet. Tanto and drop point, both $425. Next up, and the first of two knives on the table that are not available today, but will be tomorrow, is the latest from Liong Mod Designs, the Field Duty 3.5. Very cool here. These are made by Riot and have as much precision and excellence as you've come to expect from that company. S90V blade steel, 3.5 inches of it. You might guess that from the name. These feature titanium bolsters with an orange peel texture finish and camo gold fat carbon overlays here. A couple different options on the site. We got burlap micarta, canvas micarta, there's a dark matter fat carbon, a bunch of cool stuff. So the handle scales are covering nested skeletonized liners, so the total weight, despite the kind of bulk of this knife, it feels nice and lively in hand, not too heavy. Nested liner lock in there. Sculpted titanium pocket clip that goes all the way over the top and attaches at the rear. Nice feature there. Yeah, and the price on these starts at $425 and goes up to $539 for the very highest end one. All of them feature S90V steel with a hand-applied vertical satin finish. Pretty tough to do on S90V steel, to be totally honest. Yeah, this is like that EDC perfection, really. It's just the right size, you know, the materials are all top-notch, the quality is there. And this is a design that Liong has been kind of refining again and again over the years, and this is undoubtedly the best expression of it yet. For deployment, you've got this generous finger or thumb hole, flicks and thumbs open, no problem. Front flipper here at the top works for me. The detent is a little on the stronger side, I would say. So you do have to be quite intentional with it. But yeah, once you break that detent, it definitely flies open and no problem gliding closed. The details here are just, he's left no stone unturned, from the custom hardware on the pivot captured on one side by its kind of triangular shape there. Even the back spacer has been given that orange peel finish. You know, if you look at the centering there, it's perfect and even kind of accentuated by a little bit of a scoop there just to show off how well these are put together. Very cool knife. Yeah, EDC perfection, what can I say? And next, another preview of a knife that's coming out tomorrow, the Jack Wolf Big Bro Jack. These are very, very cool. I would call this a boy's knife pattern, maybe, but it's a little big for that, I think, which is why he went with the Big Bro moniker. S90V steel, beautiful clip point profile there, with a very exaggerated clip that comes to a perfect point. Full hollow grind for exceptional cutting geometry. You know, these start out thin behind the edge and stay thin. And with S90V steel, the edge retention is going to be unbelievable. Yeah, if you've seen one of our videos that features a Jack Wolf Knives release, you know the deal here. Made by a perfectionist, built by perfectionists. I have not even handled one yet that hasn't been perfect, and this one's no exception. Crisp, tight walk and talk. Quite a strong back spring, but not so strong that you can't just pinch it open like I just did. Yeah, this is everything a modern traditional should be, and has some pretty cool handle materials on this batch too. This is more that nebula fat carbon with the red, white, and blue, really exploding on this example. I mean, just look at how wild that looks. The fat carbon versions of these come in at $299, whereas the simple canvas micarta versions are $274. And let's check out the artwork on this Jack Wolf. We got Big Bro Jack, continuing the wolf theme there, and comes with the pog, the leather slip to carry in your pocket and keep it perfect. Nice little microfiber cloth and a sticker. Nice package from Jack Wolf. They always deliver on the extras. Every one of these releases has unique art, and this is going to be a popular one, I think. It's hard to go wrong with the boy's knife design. It's essentially just a Barlow without the long bolster, so yeah, cool, cool package. Okay, sticking with the slip joints for a minute more. A new handle material just arrived from Case. This is Birdseye maple that has been dyed gray. Normally, I wouldn't be a fan of gray wood if you just, I don't know, described it to me, but seeing it on the knife here, I think shows just how awesome it can be. There's still a bit of a golden hue coming through from the wood, but the beautiful figuring is visible in the maple. Yeah, it almost has like a carbon fiber effect, kind of like that fat carbon. As you turn it around in the light, you're seeing it almost move and ripple. Chatoyance, I believe is the word for that. This pattern is the Canoe. We got two blades here of stainless steel. Case's true sharp stainless steel, to be specific. Large blade and a small one. One of the nice things about the Canoe pattern is, unlike a lot of slip joints, when it's closed, the tangs are almost completely hidden, so you're not getting any hard angles there catching on lint in your pocket. Just a smooth, almost riverstone feel. Price on these is $76.99. It's not just the Canoe that we have with the gray Birdseye maple. We also have rust lock, there's a mini trapper, a bunch of other case classics all available now. The last slip joint of the day is the Buck Saunter. This is a modern traditional from Buck. This pattern may resemble some traditional patterns, maybe a bit of a... I'm not even sure what exactly to compare it to. I'd love to hear what you guys think, but it's definitely an original pattern and has the materials and construction to match. So it is a traditional back spring with a good self-close, nice resistance in the open position as well. As you'd expect from Buck, they've been building slip joints like this for a while. Steel on this is 154 cm. These are $119, and they are constructed, as I mentioned, like a modern knife. We got a Torx pivot, adjustable. We've got Torx fasteners in the back here holding the spring together. Scales are micarta. This is the OD green. It also comes in black, and there's a sheep's foot blade with carbon fiber. Well, it's nice to see a new slip joint pattern being made by some of these heritage companies like Buck. They know what makes a little slip joint like this very useful, and yeah, it's fun to see them not just kind of recreating their past, but making some new stuff. Nice edge on this, thin, full flat grind. The clip point comes to a nice acute point. For the kind of pocket knife that you just throw loose in your pocket and forget about till you need it, this would be an excellent choice. The next two knives on the table are from Victorinox, and I happen to think that they are kind of a big deal for the company. This is the Evoke, and it is, to my recollection, the first thoroughbred modern design they've ever done. It has a deep carry pocket clip. It has ambidextrous thumb studs for one-handed opening. It's a single-bladed knife. It's not, a multi-blade, multi-tool type of product. It has a back lock. And yeah, this is the first modern pocket knife from Victorinox. And it's very cool to see. This pattern has been made before. I think it's called their Hunter Pro, but it has not featured thumb studs before. And to sort of launch the Evoke with a bang, they've made it in a bunch of different colorways and configurations. This is a very cool gradient handle. This is their aluminum Alox scales, which are grippy and feel excellent in hand. They've also moved away from their typical kind of drop point profile with this clip point version. A little more, dare I say, tactical with this. Aggressive point slightly. We've got blacked out liners, pocket clip to match. And this is a sizable knife too. Almost 4 inches of blade, 3.9 inches, using Victorinox's standard stainless steel here. And because of the steel liners and the aluminum handles, it's got a fairly nice, substantial feel. I wouldn't call it heavy exactly, but it definitely feels solid. Doesn't feel lightweight at all. Yeah, grippy Alox scales. These, all of these colorways are $120, except for the wood version. It's $140. That wood version is significantly thicker than these. Because of the Alox scales, these are actually still pretty nice and thin. One more thing to note about these, the brighter colors, like this gradient, come with matching lanyards, whereas the drab versions, like this cool gray camo, the beige, the all black, the OD green, they do not come with lanyards. This is actually kind of an interesting comparison. Look at how well matched these two knives are here. Victorinox Evoke on the right, and the Spartan Harsey folder in my left hand here. Yeah, almost down to the millimeter to the same size if you ignore that lanyard loop on the Victorinox. But yeah, I mean, that's a substantial knife because this is a very substantial knife. These new versions of the Spartan Harsey folder are here. They are technically the 2022 special laser engraved versions, but time moving in only one direction. They have arrived this year. They are available with either a Nichols Damascus blade or a stonewashed S45 VN. This version that we pulled today has, what are they calling this? The Royal Flush pattern. There we have it, the most winningest poker card hand. The other side, we just have some, I guess that sort of filigree that reminds me of like on the backside of a deck of cards. Multicolored anodizing, and the design itself is just modern tactical knife folder perfection. Titanium frame lock, smooth but seriously solid action, oversized pivot that kind of doubles as an over travel stop, which is a nice little feature of these SHF folders. So if you opt for the Damascus, they will cost $550, and the S45 VN is $460. If the Royal Flush is not to your liking, there's 3 other variants. Got a Viking longboat, a koi fish, and a dragon pattern. All of them with different colors, packed with detail. Yeah, just awesome to behold. All right, moving from big to little folders, we've got a new version of the MKM Isonzo. There are actually 3 blade shapes available, but I pulled 2 here because I thought they were pretty representative of the series. This first one is the cleaver blade. These come in at $219 with M390 steel. And what really makes these new is the anodized titanium handles. With just 2 1/4 inches of blade, these are definitely a somewhat small knife, but the new scales give them a very substantial feel. Nice ergonomics on this, finger scallops that are not too prescriptive, and a kind of nicely, taper is not the right word, but a nicely angled butt end of the handle there to fit nicely, whether you're carrying it kind of choked back, where for me it's more or less a three-fingered knife, or even with a fingertip up in the sharpening choil here, where you can definitely get all 4 fingers on it. This version seems to be made to be held in both ways, especially the way the jimping is out here towards the tip. It feels very natural to rest the thumb there. You're gonna kind of bear down into a cut. You can also put the finger there for some precision work. Yeah, very thoughtfully designed. Of course, Jesper is always super concerned with the ergonomics of his designs. This one I find to be very interesting. This blade shape, I guess Spyderco would call this blade shape a reverse S, but whatever you call it, what you get here is a recurve right at the tip, which it's quite interesting. So you get a very precise tip for piercing, almost like a X-Acto style precision tip for, you know, working on a cutting mat and maybe carving some complex shapes into something. I know I use my knives to like cut out shipping labels all the time. This would be fantastic for that, going right around the corners. The recurve means that it's gonna gather material into the cut. So once you initiate the cut with the tip, it's gonna be less inclined to slip out. But then because the curve comes out and you actually get some real belly here, you can use that part of the blade to do some typical, you know, I don't know, paring knife work, or, you know, that part of the blade is gonna behave more like just your standard blade shape. So you get an interesting hybrid here, and it's a cool blade shape. I'm glad to see it on more knives. It's not something you see very much anywhere else. This version here is the only one that has a flipper tab. works great. And the choil here is a little smaller than on the sheep's foot, but it's still big enough for me to feel safe using it at the sort of first knuckle of my finger. I don't think there's quite enough to really want to use it in a gorilla grip like that, but you certainly could if you were careful. And yeah, like I said, the ergonomics are such that it feels very natural and hand-filling just in a 3-finger grip. Okay, let's get back to basics with a few budget and more affordable knives. First of which is going to be this Sencut Fritch. So Sencut, if you weren't aware, is the even more budget brand subsidiary of WE and Civivi knives. So they got WE at the top, Civivi in the middle, and Sencut at the lowest end of the price spectrum. What that means is that on a Sencut knife, you're still going to get the great Civivi tier build quality, their fantastic attention to detail, but just with some perhaps slightly lower end materials. Although here, there's not really anything objectively lower end about it. We still have ceramic bearings in the pivot for smooth, excellent action. We still have a quality blade steel, 9CR18 MOV, which you know, you can find on Civivis, and some nice, I don't want to call them upgraded handle materials, but like micarta is rarely seen on this price point, which is $46.35. Pretty cool package. It's just a nice EDC flipper with a reverse tanto blade shape.
Yes, it is.
I'll just say it. When we got that nice straight clip, actually that's not a straight clip. Yeah, I'll give this one to Thomas. It's a reverse tanto blade shape. The handle is simple enough to sort of stay out of the way, I guess I would say. Plenty of space to just get all 4 fingers on if I kind of squinch up there with just under 3 inches of blade. I think this is a great size for most people, most places. And ambidextrous thumb studs and a flipper tab work great for deployment. The next knife on the table is larger and less expensive. This is the Mims from Sencut. It is $43.35 or $45 for micarta. This one has a large thumb hole and a flipper for deployment. This version has just black G10 scales. And sort of a spear point, leaf shape-ish blade on this guy. Pretty acute point, 3.5 inches of blade. Again, 9CR18 MOV steel, which is roughly equivalent to like 440B, 440C-ish. Definitely gonna be nice and stainless, decent edge retention, decent toughness. I mean, it's a quality blade steel, for sure. Definitely an upgrade over your 8CR stuff. For example. Yeah, and because it's made by WE Civivi, we get the caged ceramic ball bearings, we get the nice, wow, impressively skeletonized liners in there, deep carry pocket clip, ambidextrous in this case. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say about these Sencut knives is take a look at the selection on the site. If you see a design that speaks to you, you should have no hesitation about getting it because they are all a phenomenal value and they're all gonna cut really well. Like, the edge on this is just phenomenal. I haven't tested its sharpness, but just speaking about its thinness, you know, if you're looking for a slicer, this is going to perform. All right, we've got a couple of new, more than a couple of new Kizers on the table and more than a couple of new Kizers on the site just now. This first one I'm actually pretty excited about. It is part of their Serape series, and this knife is the original, right? The Serape, of course, refers to this super colorful G10 handle, kind of modeled after like a Mexican horse blanket or serape, which is sort of a worn blanket. But yeah, you get the fun color from that. And the whole series comes with a bunch of extras that are pretty sweet for the price point. Like this knife with 154 cm steel is just $90 and comes in this cool extra Serape themed pouch. And you know, this is the shipping case. Well, not, it comes in a box, but this is the case that the knife comes in. But I think that this could be a cool like EDC gear pouch to go with it. You're almost getting like a whole other level of EDC functionality to go with your nice affordable EDC knife. I mean, it's a zipper closure, got a microfiber cloth in there. You've got a matching lanyard bead turned from that same Serape G10. Yeah, just really appreciate all the extras in this Serape series, especially the fact that like this is a knife packaging you're gonna want to reuse or even use all the time. As for the knife itself, the original has a button lock for sweet, safe operation. Never have to put your fingers in the path of the blade. This has a black coating, obviously, which is mostly just for looks. You know, 154 cm is a stainless steel, but it does look sweet, I will say. Nice deep carry pocket clip that has been nested into the scales to give you a very smooth presentation in your pocket. Yeah, if you're not into flipper knives, but still want a modern EDC folder, I think the original is one of the best choices on the market at the moment. You can't go wrong with a button lock from Kizer. They are always dialed in. Yeah, this is straight out of the box and it's perfectly centered, perfectly stable, and smooth as glass. So we actually just stocked more from the Serape series at the moment. There's the Cormorant, there's the Towser K, I think there's one more. Check the site, you can search for Serape, you'll find all 4 in stock, and yeah, you can't go wrong with any of them. Great value, appreciate the pouch, very cool series from Kizer. Next up from Kizer is a knife that looks like it would be a lot more expensive, but is only about $10 or $20 more. This is $109 for this Paul Munko designed Clairvoyant. We've got burlap micarta scales, what looks to be brass bolsters, burlap micarta pivot collar around the pivot there, and a cool implementation of the button lock. Normally, with Kizer's button locks, they kind of mill out a little recess around the button. This one just comes straight through the bolsters, but when it's closed, it's like virtually flush with the bolster. So not gonna have a lot of worry here about accidentally pressing that button in your pocket or something like that. But when you do go to use it, there's just enough that you can kind of get that kinetic opening if you wanted. Of course, the thumb studs work great as well. The blade here is pretty long. It almost looks like longer than the handle itself, the way that this handle is so skinny here. It's 3.7 inches, 154 cm steel, nice stone-washed finish, and I said this knife looks more expensive than it is, and it's got some of the details that like premium, more expensive knives have. A crowned spine, for example. It's not fully crowned, but they have these like soft contours or soft chamfers maybe on each side that give it the look of a fully crowned spine. Milled titanium pocket clip, another kind of high-end feature for a middle-class price. Hidden hardware on that pocket clip. We've got a nice hidden lanyard hole there as well. Just a really well thought out design by Paul Munko here, and with a ton of personality to boot. Next up, the Beglieter XL. This Beglieter is bigger and it has all the bells and whistles. We've got a button lock, we've got thumb studs, we've got a flipper, and we have 154 cm steel for $94. This version has linen micarta. I really like the look of this linen micarta. It's kind of got that military surplus vibe, but because of the linen, it's kind of a finer texture, tons of grip in the hand while still feeling somewhat smooth, if that makes any sense. Yeah, that is a big Beautiful drop point blade too. 3.9 inches, just under 4 inches of blade. And lefties will be happy to know that this also has an ambidextrous pocket clip. So we can see by the holes there. So this one can easily be flipped to either side, which is great because even though a button lock is, you know, one-handed biased, it's still very easy to use with the left hand, just with your finger there. If I haven't said the price yet, these are $94. The last folder on the table from Kizer, not the last Kizer knife on the table, is the Sheepdog XL with a removable flipper tab. Let's see if I can show this off there. So if I just get the knife kind of partway closed, I think you can see the Torx screw there holding the flipper tab in place. You can choose now whether you want the flipper deployment or you want to just use the hole to deploy the knife. I think if it were me, I would actually take the flipper off. You know, it would allow you to choke up on this massive blade here, and it would also allow the edge to get all the way down on a cutting board, which would make this one heck of a folding chef's knife. I mean, I don't think it was made for that, but with the size of this thing, you could probably put it in that role. 3.94 inches of blade, S35 VN steel. With that bump up in steel, you're gonna get a bump up in price slightly. These are $189. Yeah, titanium handles. Normally, I think this might also be the first sheepdog I've seen with these vents in the scales instead of just kind of like a milled pattern. Cool to see. I mean, saves a little bit of weight, I guess, but when the knife is this big and wide, it's not gonna be lightweight by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, these are 7.65 ounces, so definitely a chunk here, definitely a lot, and a lot to hold on to as well. Even without like a bunch of finger scallops, I feel like I have two good grips with this knife. One here at the end of the handle, just kind of wrapped around the end, and then one choked up into the scallop there. Maybe even three if you were to take off the flipper tab, you'd have another grip to get even closer to the tip. But yeah, these are sweet and super smooth. Okay, it's fixed blade time. Starting with the latest from Benchmade. This is actually live as of today when this video posts. This is the new SOCP dagger, and this thing is a tactical knife through and through. SOCP stands for Special Operations Combatives Program. With a name like that, there's no doubt what this thing is for. This is made for soldiers, and every kind of bit of the design is put forward with that purpose in mind. The traction here is extra aggressive. So we've got full tank construction with these coarse textured G10 scales. Got the finger scallops here to give you even more kind of angles for your fingers to grab hold of. Definitely works in a pinch grip here because the handle is somewhat short. This grind is typically called a bayonet grind, and it goes from here to the tip and part of the way back on the other side. So you've got kind of a true dagger profile in front, but a spine that's safe to touch up here. I don't know how many people will be really reaching over that top guard to put their thumb there, but you definitely could if you had to. Another big part of this design's feature set comes from its sheath, which is made for maximum retention in mind. It's molded plastic with a bunch of kind of like metal plates bolted to it, I guess I would say. So this plate here holds the knife in place so that when this is mounted, typically I think inverted, maybe like on a chest rig or something, there's no chance of it falling out, but it's springy so that you can just kind of push it up a little bit and draw the knife out, no problem. Definitely one of those, you know, combative sort of muscle memory things you're going to want to practice if you do carry this. It also comes with a drop loop should you want to carry this on your belt. And on the back here, the belt loop's actually attached to another clip that's going to help keep this clipped to, say, like some molly gear or whatever else you want to slip this into, whether you're carrying it right side up or upside down. I haven't even gotten to arguably the most exciting thing about this dagger, which is the fact that it's made from 3V steel. So even though this is an aggressively thin, true dagger at the tip, it's still going to be quite tough. These are $360 and they are available now. Next fixed blade is the Cabox, designed by Jonathan Stiles from Kizer. I think this is the most comfortable ring knife I have ever held, which is saying something, and it's mostly because that ring is sort of invisible. You know, if you ignore the actual hollow part of the ring and imagine this just as the silhouette of a knife handle here, when you put it in hand, you don't really feel that ring like encroaching on your grip at all. And it makes it completely usable as just a standard fixed blade knife. You don't have to use the ring to use this thing. And for that, I definitely appreciate it. Nice drop point profile. Another thing that sort of lends to its general utility use. D2 steel on this guy. And a price of $59 means that this is going to be a pretty compelling option if you want a ring for extra retention or for perhaps drawing out of the sheath in the inverted grip, but you want to carry something that you can still just use day to day and not have it feel like you're you know, trying to flex a combat knife into some food prep rolls. Canvas micarta scales on this one are nice and grippy, and the sheath is set up for scout carry, which I think makes perfect sense with this design because, you know, if you're going to carry this in the small of your back, you can reach around and grab it like a normal knife, or it's kind of even easier if you're going back there to grab it with your finger in the ring and pull it out that way. So very thoughtfully designed for that finger ring retention, but without the finger ring getting in the way of using it like a standard fixed blade. Cool design. Last on the table is a new fixed blade from Buck. This is the Alpha Scout. So we saw this at SHOT Show, I believe, and the Alpha line is a line of hunting knives, and so this was sort of sold as a small caping knife, small hunting knife, and it could absolutely do that well. You know, you've got S35 VN steel here, so great edge retention, decent toughness for use in the field. Milled rich light handles have a nice grip to them that's going to stay grippy even when they get wet or covered in hunting viscera, shall we say. But I really think that this is worth a consideration as an EDC fixed blade. You know, it doesn't have the typical concessions to hunting knife kind of style with an excessive slimness or upswept tip. It's a nice utilitarian, I guess we'll call that a drop point, with a consistent belly to the edge there. I like the way that the edge drops below your grip so that, you know, you can use the whole of the edge on a cutting board. Generous finger choil there so that it's, even though that the knife is relatively small, I can comfortably get that gorilla grip going on without feeling like my fingers are going to touch that edge. I think this would be a great candidate for like an aftermarket kydex or aftermarket pocket sheath. You know, it's just that right size to fit in a pocket, but still give you the strength and the cleanliness of a fixed blade. Integrated lanyard loop there. The sheath that it does come with, however, is a nice little leather guy with an extra loop for retention. Nice, that's a nice compact profile on your belt. Even if you weren't going to stick this thing in your pocket, I think out of the box, make a great EDC option. All right, that does it for this week's New Knives of the Week video. A lot of cool stuff to share. Make sure to come back tomorrow for the Jack Wolf and the Liong Ma dropping. Let me know what you think of this week's selection in the comments, and if you want to get your hands on any of these knives, be sure to follow the links in the description to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget about our Knife Rewards program. because if you're going to spend any of your money on any of these knives, you might as well get some money back to spend on your next knife with us. I've been Seth V for the Knife Center, and I'll see you later.